If you've been working on yourself, but every time you interact with your parents, it feels like all this inner work just slips away, or if you have been on a healing journey, but still you can't fully let go of the pain, resentment, then this video is definitely for you. And I know exactly what that feels like because I've been through it myself. I grew up with a narcissist mother. She abused me physically, mentally, emotionally, and there were even times when I ended up in the hospital because of what she did to me. And I worked with a psychologist for over 4 years, trying to heal the trauma, trying to become like a normal person, trying to function and to create the reality that I wanted. But the trauma I experienced, it was so deep, it drained me, it drained my energy, my focus, and I felt completely broken inside. And I can't really say that therapy gave me lasting results. Maybe for a few days, for a couple of weeks, things would feel better. But then I'd find myself slipping back into the old way of reactions, old way of emotions, the old frequency I experienced. But everything started to shift, to change in my reality when I was finally able to look at the situation, to look at my path from the perspective of consciousness. When I was able to understand that everything happening in my outer reality is actually happening within my consciousness. It is all the projection of my vibrational frequency into this external reality. So every situation, every emotion, every trigger is actually the reflection of my vibrational frequency. And that's exactly when I began to see that all these painful experiences were in some way needed for me, for my consciousness, for reasons that go beyond human perception, and for reasons that go beyond human story, what we usually see. And today I want to talk exactly about how you can release all this pain, all this trauma that you still hold onto, and share my own personal experience, how I was able to finally release all the pain, resentment, and return to my true self. The traditional way we often see our parents and family line usually points us as the endpoint, like we are the final counter into which the entire family history just pours itself. And that is the typical matrix-like way of thinking. We see ourselves as simply being born from union of two opposites, our father, our mother, like masculine and feminine energy intertwining. And then here we are. We also believe that our genetics, our ancestors, their traumas, their patterns, all influence us physically, emotionally, mentally, even psychologically. And so we start to see ourselves as a product, a result of everything that came before us. And this perspective often brings it with a deep unconscious sense of obligation. Like we owe something to our parents just because they gave us life. Like we must honor them, we must stay connected to them, even if they were abusive, even if they were manipulative, because there's this invisible force we believe still has power over us, emotionally, physically, even spiritually. But when we shift in the perspective of consciousness, everything looks completely different. From that point of view, you're not the endpoint. You're not the final drop where everything flows into. You're actually the starting point of everything, the source from which your entire ancestral line flows out. It's like your consciousness pouring itself into all these different personalities and faces you recognize. Your parents, your grandmother, your grandfather, everyone you can name or remember. So you are the center from which this entire family system expands, not the other way around. And from the level of consciousness, all of this material reality is actually happening within you, within your consciousness. Everything you perceive is simply a projection of your own vibrational frequency. So the people around you, the relationship you experience, they all reflect the state of your inner frequency, your vibrations. And when you look at life this way, all the usual human meanings like obligation, guilt, shame, identity, genetics begins to dissolve. Even the physical resemblance you might see between yourself and your family members, that too is just the reflection. You're essentially distributing your own energy across the forms of the people you know, everyone in your family included. It is simply a form that your consciousness is taking, a mirror of your current vibrational frequency. So what you see in them is actually you. It is your energy showing up in a form. And I know this may sound strange at first, like what she's even talking about. Because the human mind is used to seeing a reality in a linear way. Beginning and an ending, cause and effect, the outside versus you. And it seems logical, it makes sense, but reality is not logical. At least not in the way we have been taught. That version is just another limited way of perceiving. But there's so much more beyond it. So who are your parents in reality? From the perspective of consciousness, your parents are simply a projection of your vibrational frequency, a form that mirrors your vibrational frequency. And what you experience through them, how they treat you, what happened between them and you, and most importantly, how you feel and how you react, it is all the expression of your own consciousness. And if we are honest with ourselves and deep down, we all carry this knowing beyond the logical mind. We can feel that the other is not truly separate. My parent is not just a person with a fixed personality. It is my own energy of consciousness reflected back to me. And I'm actually interacting with myself. And from the point of view of consciousness, nothing in our reality is truly external. Whether it is people, situation, even physical objects like cities, countries, a table, a cup of coffee, it is all happening inside your consciousness. It's not only taking place within you, it's also a form, a shape that matches the vibration you're holding. So you can't ever really touch something outside of yourself. Everyone you meet, everything you think about, everything you feel, even the dynamics with your parents is really your own vibrational energy showing up in form. And especially when we talk about what is happening in the present, the triggers, the emotions, the reactions, that's your current vibrational state of your consciousness expressing itself throughout those forms. So let me give you a personal example. From early childhood, I never had a close relationship with my mother. We were never like friends. She was emotionally and mentally immature. And for a long time, we didn't even talk. I live in another country, she lives far away, and our connection was always pretty distant. Meanwhile, I was enjoying my life. I felt happy, balanced, and the people around me, they were kind, respectful, balanced as well. But still, deep down, I felt that there is a program that I have to be a people pleaser, that I have to be good, I have to sacrifice myself. And I was raised as a people pleaser as well. That was her programming. You have to be kind, you have to be polite, you have to sacrifice yourself, you have to put others first. And from the human perspective, that just felt like my personality. But in truth, it was just a consciousness pattern. And it showed up everywhere, with my clients, in my friendship, even in my past relationships. And of course, the main person who constantly reflected this pattern back to me was my mother. And recently my father passed away and I inherited a decent amount of money. And since I live abroad, I asked my mother to be my legal representative back home to handle all this process, all this situation. And she agreed. But when she received the part of the money, she held onto it. She used it to manipulate me. She didn't send it to me for months. Almost 3. And during those months, they were so stressful. I felt incredibly dependent. I adapted myself to her mood. I tried to please. I begged. I played the victim, trying to earn what was already mine. And the pressure and tension I felt inside were insane. It was so strong that it even affected my physical body. I injured my knee. And this situation, with all of this emotional intensity and drama, I see it actually as a gift. Because I see it as a mirror, a very loud, very clear reflection of that old pattern in me. They need to be good, to earn love, to sacrifice, to be a people pleaser. And what is happening in your life isn't really about them. If you keep seeing it all through the lens of human separation, this human logic, you will stay on an endless, exhausting path. But I suggest you to see from another perspective, that what is happening in your reality is actually the projection of what is inside you, of your own programs, of your own vibrational frequency of consciousness. And yes, in my situation, I reacted. I felt intense emotions. It hurt, but it also revealed the program that I was still carrying. And in seeing it clearly, I could finally begin to release it and to become free. I realized that this whole situation was just me replaying an old program again. The need to be a people pleaser, the need to be kind, the need to sacrifice my own resources, even my own money, because deep down I believed I owed my mother. I owed her for giving birth to me, for raising me. And so I felt like I had to share that money with her, that I had no right to claim what was fully mine. But the moment I saw that clearly, something shifted. I found the courage to stand up for myself, for my boundaries. I finally said, listen, this money is mine. It is my inheritance from my father, and it belongs to me. And I was able to say that without any guilt, without any shame, without any pain. For 2 months, I hadn't been able to do that. I couldn't protect myself. I couldn't hold on to my boundaries. I was stuck in that old unconscious trauma. And it wasn't until my injury happened that truly woke me up. And until then, I had been completely immersed into my old patterns, asleep to how deeply they still controlled me. But the moment I recognized that everything happening around me was just a mirror, just a reflection of these unconscious programs that are still alive inside me, I saw clearly what needed to be changed, what needed to shift. And I asked myself, what can I do differently? How can I feel differently? How can I show up in a new way, in a new energy? And everything began to change. She returned the money and my knee began to heal. So how did shifting my consciousness change the way I see my past? As long as something still alive inside me, I will describe the past through that lens. The way I speak about it, the way I feel about it, it's not just memory. It is a reflection of who I am right now. And for a long time, I was the energy of resentment, the energy of injustice, pain. And so when I spoke about my past, all the things that happened, including my physical abuse, emotional and mental abuse as well, I would describe it through intense emotional reaction. Because I was that pain, and that was my current vibration. So what helped me to change that? What helped me to release all this old trauma and pain? It was the realization that nothing can happen in my life, no matter how painful, no matter how difficult, how dark, it is for some reason is necessary for my consciousness. Not for my human self, not for my logical mind, but for me as consciousness, to have a certain vibrational growth. And when I really understood that, something shifted. All those thoughts that something shouldn't have happened or that things should have been different, they just dissolved. And I realized that everything that ever happened in my life was for me. And that doesn't mean that I justify what my mother did. That doesn't mean I erased all the memories or said that it was okay. What I released were the heavy emotions, the suffering, because I finally saw all of this as something for my growth. And then I began to see how even my childhood, everything I lived through, actually helped me. And since I was very young, my biggest motivation was not to be like my mother. I wanted to create something completely different, a real family, whole family, where a child has both a mother and a father. In my family, my parents divorced when I was 2 years old. My father didn't live with us. I was mostly raised by my grandmother. And the way she was, everything she did to me, was the reason I started asking myself, why? Why do I have a mother like this? And the answer didn't come through years of deep therapy or spiritual practices or different techniques. It came simply, naturally. I just let the pain go. I realized that everything that happened in my life was for me, for my own consciousness. And from that moment on, I started seeing every experience that way too. And I still do. Everything like my knee injury. Yes, it was painful. Yes, I felt fear, physical limitation, discomfort, but I could still see. This is too for me. This is necessary for me. Nothing can happen in my reality that is not meant for me. One more thing that really helps me to let go of expectation, especially the hope that one day my mother will change, that one day she suddenly will realize all the harm, trauma, the pain she caused me, is seeing her as the same consciousness as me. Of course, on a deep level, we're all one. But it's still difficult for us to truly see everything as one. Most of the time, we can only sense that truth or try to grasp it mentally. But by the default, we still see everything as separate, as the other person, even your parent, is just as much as consciousness as you are, a being with the potential for everything. They can shift into any quality, live any experience, evolve. They might change or they may not, and both are okay. Every human being, especially your parent, carries within them unconditional love to their child. Every human being, especially parents, they carry within them unconditional love for their child. That's the part of the original design, but we also carry mental structure, beliefs, stories, ideas about life, and those can block us from fully feeling or expressing that unconditional love. And I realized that my mother had so many mental limitations. She lives in a deep sense of obligation, of right versus wrong. She holds tight to duality. A good parent versus a bad parent, a good child versus a bad child. She doesn't allow herself to feel that unconditional love. That's already there. And I had to come to peace with this. She might change, but there's also a real possibility she won't. And I gave her, as consciousness, the right to live in the vibrational range that is necessary for her journey. I am changing. I'm doing my inner work. I'm transforming myself. But I no longer expect that because I change, she will too. Maybe her behavior will stay the same. Maybe the way she speaks to me won't shift at all. But what will change is my reaction, my choices, my boundaries. Maybe I will choose to stop talking to her. Maybe I will learn to hold on to my boundaries firmly, without guilt, without fear. That's up to me. So to truly free yourself from expectations, without falling into ego or judgment, you have to be able to see others as consciousness, the same way you're learning to see yourself, as consciousness with infinite possibility, with infinite potential. That means allowing space for them to change or to stay the same, meeting them with love and acceptance for where they are, for whatever life experience they create, they are currently living in. Because just like within us, there's always a reason. Most of the time, it's not a human reason. And I no longer live by mental labels like she will always be this way or she has to change. I leave space for all possibilities. But my priority is me, my feelings, my emotions, my life and my energy. So what her consciousness chooses to experience next, what vibration it moves onto, is entirely up to her. And I allow that. Another key shift that helped me and that can help you is a releasing importance. Often the reason we can resolve something or move through it because we have given too much weight. We're clinging to a certain truth, a certain meaning, and that attachment keeps us stuck. It stops us from releasing the emotions and seeing the situation from a new perspective, from a new angle. But in reality, everything that is happening in the outside world, situations, objects, even the relationships with your parents, carries no inherent meaning. The meaning you see is the meaning you give. It all lives inside you first. You project that meaning outward and then experience your own interpretation reflected back to you. And when the importance starts to fade, you suddenly gain the ability to see things differently, to let go of the pain, to let go of the old story or the emotional charge. Think about the word mother or father. How much meaning those carry. So many beliefs are packed into those words. How we should feel, what we should do, what's allowed, what is not. And if you are the parent, it works the same. Society tells you what kind of parent you're supposed to be. So we give extra significance to those roles automatically. Simply because it's your mother, you take her opinion seriously. Even if it's full of hate, even it's completely destructive, you accept it as truth because you have given her position that weight. But what if you tried to remove the label? What if you took away the word mother and just saw her as a person? How would your perception change? For me, that was a huge shift. There's so many things that are socially considered unacceptable, like not communicating with your parent. But when I let go of the importance I placed on that role, I was finally able to ask myself, do I even want to talk to her? Honestly, like deeply. And the moment I gave myself permission not to talk to her, if I didn't feel like it, I was free. Before that, when mother still carried all that significance, I could not even think the thought of cutting communication. It brought instant guilt, shame, and fear. But now, without weight, I can simply feel. I can make aligned choices. I can protect my boundaries. I can speak clearly about what belongs to me, like in the inheritance situation, without any guilt. So if you're still struggling with pain, resentment, or trauma around your parents, ask yourself, what importance am I still giving this role? And try to imagine what would shift if you released it, even just a little. For me, this also helped in a very practical way. My mother has said many hateful and critical things to me. And once I saw her not as a powerful, meaningful mother, but just as a person, her words started to feel like the comments from strangers or haters online. When she told me I was ungrateful or threw other cruel things at me, it no longer hit the same way. It didn't land. It didn't matter. And that's what happens when you release the emotional importance. Your reaction changes. You become free to see a situation from a completely different perspective. And from that place, everything starts to shift. So why does our consciousness choose to incarnate through those specific parents? The moment of our birth, our appearance here on earth, is just one of the point of incarnation. And honestly, that's topic is huge, and it has to do with the multi-potentiality of consciousness and multi-reality, which we will explore in another video. But the family we're born into, it simply means there's some kind of vibrational match. And that match can be based on resonance or polarity. For example, I came into the life with a sense of expansion. Ever since I was a child, I felt that anything is possible. And yet my parents were the ones who constantly tried to ground me, shut me down, dismiss my dreams as just stupid fantasies. That's vibrational alignment through contrast. Their energy mirrored mine, but in the opposite direction. Sometimes it's a shared resonance. Maybe I'm in a vibration of love and my parents are too. So the match can happen both ways, in resonance or in polarity. The point is the family we incarnate into reflects something in our consciousness. Just like any other relationships, the people you experience in your reality are a vibrational match to you. Not always in a pleasant or obvious way, but the match is still there. Like with my mother, I had this deep unconscious program, be good, be pleasing. And she was the one who used that. My energy, my resources, my emotions for her own benefit. And here's one of the most important points. If you want to feel the things you deeply long for, to finally let go of resentment, pain, and trauma, you need to start seeing yourself as consciousness. A lot of healing systems, practices, and spiritual knowledge offer tools and techniques designed to give you what your parents didn't. For example, helping you create a sense of safety. But if you approach this from a usual mental database, from what you have learned, read, been told, it starts to seem like you need to do something to feel what you want. That you need the right conditions, that you need the right tools, that you need the right healing process in order to become that feeling. But when you see yourself through the eyes of consciousness, you'll realize you already have everything. You already are everything. Everything you think you need to add to yourself, the safety, the self-love, the peace, it's already within you. It's already in the frequency of your consciousness. So when you release resentment, when you start loving yourself, when you feel aligned, you're not creating something new. You're remembering what's already there. And even more, on the level of consciousness, there's no linear cause and effect, no tangled web or inherited trauma or karmic weight from others. There's even knowledge that says that your grandmother's life influences yours. Your ancestral pain lives in your subconscious. And sure, that's one point of view, but it's a human one, not a conscious one, not a consciousness-based one. From the perspective of consciousness, it's much simpler. You're always in yourself. There are no external forces shaping your experience. No unconscious processes from someone else's past that controls your now. All those ideas, ancestral trauma, karma, are just points of perception. They're mental models. But when you truly begin to live as consciousness, when you expand, you realize there is no linear time, no cause and effect, no separation. And from there, so many old beliefs become irrelevant. What happened to your grandmother doesn't have to define your life, not unless you believe it does. And when you see that, you begin to live in real freedom. And when we talk about giving ourselves what our parents didn't, when we want to finally feel the emotions, to experience some feelings that seemed missing, for example, in my case, it was feeling of self-worth, it can feel really hard at first. It may look like your childhood created the perfect foundation for you not feeling valuable. And for a long time, I existed in that vibrational frequency without truly seeing a way out. I tried all kind of different practices, tools, techniques. I really put in the work. But to be honest, it was a long, exhausting process. And it never really gave me the result I was looking for. But everything started to shift when I stopped seeing myself as someone who had to build or fix something, and began seeing myself as consciousness. And when you realize that every emotion, every feeling you want to experience, every belief you want to embody, every version of you that you want to become already exists within your consciousness, everything becomes easier. So you don't need to create something from scratch. You don't need to create self-worth from scratch. You don't need to build self-love step by step. You just need to start being it in the way you understand it right now. The more you embody it, the more it naturally opens up. It becomes effortless. It becomes alive. Because the truth is, shifting your emotional frequency and becoming a new version of yourself is so much easier now. It's more natural than we were ever taught. All those techniques and practices, they can be helpful. They speak more to our rational mind, and for some people they really work. But I wanted to offer you something faster and more effective, something more direct, something that comes from your being, not your effort. It is to seeing yourself as consciousness, and you will start to feel that what you have been trying to create for so long, it is to seeing yourself as consciousness. And that's exactly how you will start to feel what you have been trying to create for so long. Everything is so much easier, so much faster than we have been programmed for. So anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. I hope you have learned a lot of things, and I wish you to see yourself as consciousness in every situation you experience. That's exactly what's going to change your reality, and all these questions about how can I release my trauma, how can I embody, how can I become the version I want to become. It all actually pretty easier than we thought about it. Thank you, and I will see you in the next videos.